Good evening and welcome to Mattlidens IB Info Evening. My name is Saana Ruotsala. I'm the head of school at Mattlidens Gymnasium. And with me I have Anna Quagrain, who's the guidance counselor for our IB section, and also Anna Martikainen, our DP coordinator. We also have plenty of students here present with us today. There are DP2 students, i.e. last year students. What the program is about today. The Annas right next to me are going to talk about first the PreDP year, the first year in Mattlidens IB. After that, they're going to talk about the IB diploma program itself, the 2-year program. Then also give some tips, especially the students are probably gonna tell you more about this part. Why choose Mattlidens if you are looking into choosing an IB school. And then also what we are going to cover today is aspects of further education and the IB concerning that, and also how to apply to us. Now, during this evening, we have a chat functioning at the same time. Now, if you wish to write a question, you can do so either in Finnish or Swedish or English. The answer will be always given in English, either directly in a written form in the chat function or throughout the evening at some point by Anna's right next to me or the students. Now, if you wish to ask a question via the chat, then you need to go to the media server website instead of YouTube. That link is found on our website. This evening is recorded at the same time, so if you missed some parts or want to go over some sections or just go over with some people that haven't watched this evening at all, you can do so in our YouTube channel. But with further ado, I'll let the Annas speak more.
All right, welcome. Good evening for my part as well. I'll start with just a little bit about our school, what we do here at Mattlidens IB. You can see on the slide how long we've been around. It's been, we were one of the first schools in Finland to offer the IB program. We've got a pretty good-sized cohort, 50 students, which means we can offer a wide variety of subjects. It's a Swedish language school, which also makes us unique in the capital area. And we've got a really international staff and students, so it's a great place to work and to study. The next slide. I won't say much about this. It's our mission statement, so you can see what we're focusing on here at the school, providing a good learning environment for you to develop your skills, but also to become more open-minded and what IB likes to call a lifelong learner.
Okay, so in PreDP, the first year at Mattlidens, you're not actually in the official IB diploma program. So the IB is only a 2-year program, which means that Finnish upper secondary schools and the requirement of a 3-year program means we have this grade 10 PreDP. All the subjects we offer in the IB, you will be studying in PreDP, so you don't have to blindly choose any subjects or think about having to do something you've never done in year 9, for example. What we do here in Mattlidens, along with all the other Espoo upper secondary schools, is that we have 5 periods per academic year, approximately 7 or 8 weeks per period, with evaluation or project weeks at the end. New for next year is also going to be a project week in the middle of the period, and this allows for a longer slot per subject, meaning that whether it's a presentation or a visit, an excursion somewhere, contacts with further education or working life, all of this is easier to arrange when there's more time at once in the timetable. So this will then be twice per period. We talk about courses, so a subject is divided into specific courses, and in, for example, the languages, A languages in PreDP, everyone has 3 mandatory courses per subject. And these are then studied approximately 3 lessons a week for one period, making up one course. In PreDP, there are lots of mandatory courses, so all the subjects we offer. And also then after you've done the mandatory ones, you can then choose some optional courses in subjects you'd like to pursue further and possibly then do in the IB. But more about this will be told to you in guidance counselling lessons throughout your PreDP year, and also subject teachers will help you decide on what you might want to choose. All the courses in PreDP are in English, except for languages. So French has a lot of French, of course, and Swedish is in Swedish, and Finnish is in Finnish. But everything else is in English, and this is often something that students, especially those who are not used to studying in English before, are maybe concerned about. And I would say that at the latest by Christmas of PreDP, students have forgotten that they've not studied in English before. So if not in the first period, then in the first few months, they get accustomed to this new system. So we have students who have studied in Finnish before, in Swedish before, in English, or in another language and have moved to Finland. So there are plenty of friends who can support you along the way. IB subject choices, the official ones, are not made until the very late spring then of PreDP. So students in PreDP now are going to be receiving information about subjects in February or so, and then after that they can make an informed choice on what they would like to do. Besides the 5 periods we also have what's called a flex week, and that's a 1-week intensive course during the springtime, where all Mattlidens students participate in the first 2 years, so in PreDP and in DP1. And some examples of courses that have been organised so far has been drama in English, knitting and yoga and creative writing, and first aid courses both in Swedish and in English. And some of these courses have been in cooperation with other schools in the vicinity here of Mattliden, for example, the skiing course to Lapland.
All right, so let's move on to the IB program proper. Here on this slide, every year I update these numbers, and they just keep going up with how many schools are offering the program and how many candidates are writing the exams every May. So quite substantial number, and the numbers are always growing, even here in Finland when schools are increasing their intake. So it's a really popular and recognized internationally program, so you don't have to worry about people not knowing what the IB stands for when you finish your studies here. The IB diploma is made up of 6 different subjects, and you choose them from these different subject groups, which we'll go through in a moment. And 3 of them you need to study at what's called higher level, so it's just a deeper and more intensive study of the subject, and 3 at standard level. You can see the number of hours that each course involves over the 2 years. What makes the IB unique, however, is this part called the core. So at the center we have something called extended essay, theory of knowledge, and creativity, activity, and service, and those things must be successfully completed in order to get the diploma. And yeah, we still continue with this period system that Anna talked about earlier, except you're studying the same subjects throughout, same teacher, same group, and so on. So it's not the same. Things don't change so much, which is great. I can say from a teacher's perspective, at least, you get to know the students really well, and the students get to know each other really well within their subject groups, and we have a lot of fun together. But yeah, so now we'll start going through each of these elements individually, and we're going to actually start with the core. And we'll start with our first video. So we've had teachers here who've pre-recorded videos about each of the subject groups, and we will start with Jim and Jamie and the core.
I'm Jim, this is the brain.
And I'm Jamie.
We're here to talk a little bit about the core, the IB core. I teach English here at Mattlidens, but I also teach TOK, and I coordinate the CAS program.
And I teach biology here in the IB, and I'm also an assistant coordinator or assistant to the coordinator, and I also coordinate the provision of the EE, the extended essay, here at Mattlidens Gymnasium.
So just a few words about the core in the IB. The core is the central component of the IB diploma, considered very important by the IB, and it consists of TOK, theory of knowledge, the extended essay, and CAS, which is creativity, activity, and service. I'll start with a few words about TOK, hand over to Jamie for a couple of words about extended essay, and then I'll finish off with a little bit about CAS. So TOK, theory of knowledge, is really what I like to refer to as philosophy, sort of do-it-yourself philosophy. We discuss philosophical questions, but we don't study what philosophers have said about those questions. It's the classes which are very open for discussion. They're enjoyable, fun discussion classes where we discuss questions about knowledge, and we critically reflect on the kind of knowledge that you learn in your other classes. Joe.
Thank you. The extended essay is a specific strand or thread that the IB has as part of the core, and it's an opportunity for the students to really immerse themselves in a topic of their choosing, a subject of their choosing, within the confines of the subjects that are provided at the school, because they have to be supervised by one of the teachers here. But it's an opportunity for them to do a research exercise and do their probably first or main academic piece of writing. And of course, it has to be done as part of the assessment criteria to get their diploma. We hear from students that have left our school and go to university, and they come back and talk to us at some point, perhaps in the future. And actually, the IB process itself, but also the doing of the extended essay really helped them in terms of their university career. That's to say that they had very good research skills already, perhaps compared to their contemporaries when they started at university. So not only is it something that they can really take ownership of and get their teeth into regarding the research, but also it sets them up really well for tertiary education beyond our school.
Okay, and finally then, CAS, creativity, activity, and service. CAS is a program for students to embark on and apply themselves to throughout their IB diploma, which requires students to participate in activity, which is basically sports, creativity, which is basically arts and music kind of things, and service, which involves helping people out in the community. You'll need to participate on this regularly throughout the IB diploma and think about it and reflect on it as you're going through. Can be a really potentially rewarding and interesting adjunct to the IB diploma itself. Okay, well, I think that's all we've got for you today. So thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, so TOK is the first part of the core. There are lessons throughout, so also in PreDP, but the actual proper work then starts later on. Philip, could you maybe give us some examples about what you do in TOK?
Yeah, for sure. So TOK is personally one of my favorite subjects. So what we do during the lessons is we often take a real life situation or a common phenomenon, and then we look at it from different points of view, and there's often not like a right or a wrong answer to these questions, and we kind of debate them from a philosophical point of view without all the, as Jim mentioned in the video, like the philosophers and that kind of stuff. And then what makes these discussions so interesting is that we have a very diverse, culturally diverse, and also a pretty ethnically diverse group of students in the IB because of the internationalism. So the discussions are often very broad and not one-sided at all.
Thank you. Okay, so the extended essay. A 4,000-word investigation to someone in 9th grade, I think it sounds pretty daunting, but you parents there might realize that it's not that long. If you're in working life, then have to do very many more and longer reports. But On one of the pictures here, I think we have a fisherman who has joined us here today. Matthias, would you like to tell us a bit about your extended essay process?
So yeah, I did my extended essay in economics as a subject group, and well, although the extended essay is an individual, well, project essay, whatever you would like to call it, you do get guidance from your teacher, or in this case, it's not your teacher, it's your supervisor. It's someone who knows, well, someone who knows the area. Even if you don't have them as a teacher, you still get guidance from them, and it helps a lot. With writing the essay, because you might not be sure of what to do, so you just ask and you get this guidance, and it helps out a lot in the end. And I think it was a really interesting project to do, and I learned new things while doing it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what else to say about it. It's not as hard as it sounds, definitely, to you ninth graders watching. It ended up, I mean, I was really scared to do it in the beginning, but it ended up being much easier than I actually expected. And I'm really happy about that. Yeah.
Thank you. Also, the extended essay is quite a long process. It's nothing that you have to turn in during a weekend or a week or something. It is many months of smaller installments of writing and getting feedback, like Matthias said. Okay, the last part of the core is something that there is guidance at school, but then it's done outside of school hours and lesson hours, and that is CAS. Ronja and Nora, you have had quite different CAS experiences. Could you please tell us a bit about what you've been doing?
So my most memorable CAS experience was actually volunteering at the cafe of an old folks home. It was a very rewarding experience. I also did things like acrylic painting and creative writing, and was also able to kind of work my hobbies into my CAS experiences.
Yeah, I also had the possibility to use my hobbies, as I did basketball as one of my main parts of my CAS, but I also used my schoolwork, because I was part of the Vanhat committee, and then this year the IB committee. And here we, with Matthias actually, we're part of the budgeting group, and we're in charge of that, and then we got to use this in our CAS, and that was really beneficial. And that way it made it quite a lot easier, because you didn't have to get that much new or try to like find new activities. You could just use the ones that you were already doing in school.
Okay, thank you. So, like Ronja, you can go outside of school. We have students who, for example, piggy bank for UNICEF, or then you can be in school and work for the student council or as a tutor, for example. But now we're going to go on to our actual subject groups, the individual subject groups, and the other Anna is going to take you through them.
All right, so here you can see, as I mentioned earlier, you have to study 6 subjects as part of your diploma, and the IB has a very wide range of subjects within each of these different subject groups, and here you can see which subjects we offer here at Mattlidens and at which level. We unfortunately cannot offer all subjects at both HL or SL because they may not be available as a subject in that way, or just simply for our own school situation. But there is quite a range, I can say. Of course, we are limited by time, so we can't offer all subjects to everyone. So there is a bit of maybe coordination that needs to happen there. But I think most students get pretty much what they want. Yeah. But we'll start going through these individually now. So we'll start with the studies in language and literature, and we'll show the next video here. You'll see a familiar face.
Hi, I'm Jim. I teach English A. I also teach TOK, which I'll be talking about in another video. At this school we offer English A both literature, English A literature, and also English A language and literature. This gives 2 different possible ways to approach English. You can study English A literature, which focuses on the analysis of just literary texts. Or if you prefer, you can study English A language and literature, where you get the chance to study not just literary texts, but also non-literary texts.
Hej, jag heter Annika och jag jobbar som lärare i modersmål och svenska A här i Mattliden. Vid Mattlidens IB kan man alltså läsa svenska som modersmål även om vi kallar det för svenska A och inte modda. Att ha sitt eget modersmål som ett av ämnena här i gymnasiet var alla andra studier går på engelska brukar uppskattas av våra studerande. Det är skönt att få skriva, prata och läsa på sitt modersmål. Eller hur, Ingrid?
Ja, det är nog jätteskön så här paus i engelskan, att lite få tala svenska med andra som har det som modersmål också.
Varför valde du som svenskspråkig att komma till Mattlidens IB-linje?
Jag tänkte att det är lite mera utmaning och sen också öppnar det mera dörrar för framtiden för studier utomlands.
Moi, mun nimi on Merit ja opetan suomea sekä A- että B-kielenä IB:llä. Ja niin kuin Annika sanoi, niin meillä on myös suomi A-kielenä sen sijaan, että varsinaisesti puhuttaisiin äidinkielestä. Ja IB:llä A-suomi on oikeastaan pelkästään kirjallisuutta. Severi, miksi päätit valita Suomen IB:lle, vaikka ei ollut pakko?
Se oli mulla semmoinen sinänsä aika helppo valinta opiskella suomea, koska mä tuun suomalaisesta yläasteelta ja sitten mä mahdollisesti menen opiskelemaan yliopistoon suomen kielellä, niin haluan ylläpitää mun suomen kielen taidot, että sitten ei tarvitse taas tehdä niin hirveätä työtä, jos vaihtaa uudestaan taas opetuskieltä.
Mitä hyötyä sun mielestä on siitä, että sä IB:llä opiskelet myös suomea?
No, niin kuin sanoin äsken, niin sitten ylläpitää just sitä kirjoittamistaitoa ja pystyy sitten enemmän analysoimaan ja näitä just kirjallisuuden termejä ja tällaista oppii, että sitten ei jää se suomen kielen käyttö pelkästään siihen puhekieleen ja kavereiden kanssa juttelun siellä netissä.
Okay, so all students in the IB need at least one A language. And as you could see there or hear there, we offer English, Finnish and Swedish as an A language, and also a school-supported self-taught language. So if you speak a language at home that the IB offers as a subject, but we don't offer at the school, then there is a possibility that you could do that, and you would get instructions then from school and help concerning what kind of essays you are writing and oral assignments you are doing, and so on. So you wouldn't be alone even if there is no one else in the school who speaks the language that you are studying. But that was A languages, and now we're going to watch a video, a slightly shorter one, on B languages.
Bienvenue à étudier le français B au lycée Mattliden.
Tervetuloa opiskelemaan B-suomea Mattlidens gymnasiumiin.
Välkommen att studera svenska i Mattlidens gymnasium.
Bienvenidos a estudiar español B en Mattliden. So Language B is a language acquisition course, which means that you're going to learn a new language and communicate in it.
Instead of just focusing on grammar, we use lots of authentic texts as a study point so that we read different kinds of newspaper texts, watch movies and see videos, listen to audio files.
And if you choose Swedish in Mattlidens gymnasium, you will have a great opportunity to språkbada in Swedish.
So see you in August.
Nos vemos en agosto.
In case you only choose one A language, you then have to select a B language. In Mattliden, you can have Finnish, French, Spanish, Swedish as a B language. And we have two examples with us here today. Ellen is studying French B, and Matthias, you're doing Swedish B. Ellen, please.
Yeah, so I'm studying French B, and what I really like about it is that we interact with a lot of real-world texts that you would really kind of come into contact with if you were in an environment that speaks the language that you're learning. Also, we do a lot of oral practice, so you really do get to really try and speak the language as well. And a large part of our lessons are in French, so our teacher tells us stories in French and gives instructions in French, but of course you still get help in case you don't understand something or need extra help with something. But yeah, it really is a very kind of immersive program, so I really like it because of that.
Yeah, and I'm studying Swedish B. And when I came to Mattliden, I didn't speak a word of Swedish. And then by the end of PreDP, actually, by just being in Swedish B and hanging out with Swedish-speaking people here at the school, I was able to understand it already. And because of the fact that you're surrounded by people who speak the language, Swedish B is a really, really good subject choice here at the school. And just the fact that you're able to use it and listen to it constantly throughout your school day and even in your free time, it helps so much to learn the language. Plus, during the lessons, our teacher, Baba, is amazing. And well, she's a great teacher, and she also likes to have fun during the lessons. And yeah, that's why I really enjoy studying Swedish B.
Yeah, I also want to say that our French teacher, Krista, she's great, and she's also really fun, and just we have a lot of fun during lessons, so yeah.
Okay, I think fun helps in also learning new things. I mean, who would like to have a boring lesson if you can have a fun one? Okay, next.
Was there a question, Sana? Yeah.
We have a question.
We have a couple of questions here concerning the languages. One question would be, can you study 2B languages?
Theoretically, yes, but I think a lot of it would depend on the schedule, because we do have a lot of the B languages are offered at the same time. But I mean, yes, providing you're fulfilling the diploma requirements, that would work.
And then the other question that here is concerning B languages, what does Finnish as a B language comprise?
Well, in essence, it's the same as what Ellen was talking about with French B, because all of the languages have the same syllabus. So again, interacting with real life texts and using the language in practice. We do offer, if there are enough students to form a group, we do have Finnish B at HL, and the big difference there is that students who do the HL Finnish B have to read at least 2 works of literature as part of their syllabus.
Okay. I know we have also had some questions about language and choosing between the national side and IB. We will get back to those questions slightly later on in this presentation. But now we will go on to the following subject group, individuals and societies, and again a video with teachers and students.
Okay. Economics in the IB is divided between microeconomics, macroeconomics, and global economics. Global being both international and development economics. And the whole of the course is centered around the ideas of sustainable growth and sustainable development within the whole world, actually. Yes, thank you. Next.
Yeah, so like the great thing about economics is that we focus on sustainability, which is not really has not been focused on for the past few decades. So it's a good thing to know about how to sustainably develop a nation, and therefore, like when you when you come to economics class, you learn about all these sustainable methods of development, which is a good thing as well.
Yeah, and we also learn about development economics, and we look at both like some of the benefits and the problems with things like, for example, foreign direct investment, which is really interesting.
Yeah, so in this course, we also look at how like firms, like of course they buy and sell products in their national markets, but what I found that was really interesting is how those markets relate on the international scale, and we also learn about that too through things like exchange rates and international trade.
So another course we offer in Individuals and Societies is Global Politics, which is an interdisciplinary study that looks at how power manifests in the modern world that we see around us. So we focused on the most recent 20 years, trying to make sense of the political world that the students find themselves in today. What are the reasons for war? What are the laws behind them? Who has power to make change in the world today?
Yeah, and as a student of global politics, it really kind of gives me an insight into the different perspectives on global issues, especially living in the West. Like very exposed to just like Western perspectives, so it really reveals different ways of looking at problems.
And also, like, it's really great that the subject encourages the student to listen or watch the news a lot and be aware of what's going on around them. So the student is a lot more informed and can make better decisions. Yeah.
Another interesting thing about GLOPO is the fact that we have students who have completely contrasting opinions on certain political matters, and you can get together in the class and discuss things, which is really interesting. And the second thing is that what I found with humanities, especially GLOPO, is learning to write academic essays, which is going to help students in the future in university, for example, if they choose to continue their studies.
And finally, history is the third subject offered in the humanities in our school, in the IB. And for history, from the IB perspective, it takes it from a global perspective, concentrating on 19th and 20th century history. That's from 1815 and the Vienna Congress through to after the Second World War. And it teaches analysis and the evaluation of not just history, but the documents and the evidence that exists before us.
And as a student of history, it's really nice that we sort of look at things in a way how these sort of events relate to each other, and how you go from one event to another to another to another, especially on the sort of shorter time scale. It's very clear how these different events lead to each other.
Part of what students do here is something that's going to be part of their final assessment. And in history, for example, Nora has done some assessed coursework that we would like to hear about now. Could you please say something?
Yeah, so I did my history IA in the Finnish involvement in the Holocaust, and it was really interesting, the research progress. I learned a lot of new things because I had to, for example, visit the foreign ministry, and there I got to do some research in their archives about the Finnish Valpo chief, Arno Antoni, who in 1940 did some quite horrible things, but I'm not going to use your time for this, but that I really got to investigate judicial reports from 1940, which was really interesting, and this way I also got to this I can also use if I want to study law after the IB, so that was really beneficial for me to get the chance to investigate these types of information, and the whole process was really interesting.
Yeah, thank you. So here you can again see that most of what we do here in the IB is also very then helpful for further education and learning how to research, how to write research papers and lab reports and so on, and work together. And next we will hear some more about lab reports. We are moving on to experimental sciences, and we'll hear from Jamie.
Hello, I'm Jamie Craig, and I'm here to represent the sciences at Mattlidens Gymnasium. Here at Mattlidens, we offer biology and chemistry and physics, and all of them at both HL and SL. Many of you may well be familiar with the HL and SL differences, but briefly, the HL and SL all follow a core syllabus, And so it's common in both parts. And then for students who study the sciences at HL, there is additional higher level content, which is normally conceptually more challenging and goes into the topics in quite a lot more detail. And so perhaps share this with you a little bit. We have a few of our students to tell us why they chose their sciences.
Okay, I'm Karthik, and I take higher level biology and higher level chemistry because I have aspirations to become a doctor, and the sciences show how things work together, which I'm very interested in.
I'm Patchi Tolanen. I take high level physics and standard level biology, and for me, physics seemed the most interesting out of the three, so I wanted to take it as a higher level, and then I liked biology from PreDP, so that's why I chose it at a standard level.
Hello, I'm Sebastian Morris. I'm taking chemistry and physics. I think chemistry is most important to me, and I have a little background in it.
Thank you for sharing that with us. One of the other things that makes the sciences in the IB quite different perhaps from the national side courses is a thing called the internal assessment. So every student who does a science has to do an internal investigation, which is essentially their own investigation into a topic that somehow interests them in a science. And for this, they get their hands on scientific equipment. You can see that we're in a laboratory now, so there's various bits of equipment around and behind me. And the students can choose an investigation, and if they're doing two sciences like these guys, they'll have to do two investigations. And it gives them an opportunity to do a fairly detailed research task, collect their own data, analyse it and write it up. And this actually stands them in really good stead for when they go into university and have to do their own experiments and also their own write-ups, analyses, etc. Thank you for watching this and listening, and hope to maybe see you in the future.
So, in the IB, we also deal with hot topics like COVID and things like that. So, in biology, the assessed coursework, Ronja, what is this very hot topic you have dealt with?
So in my biology IA, I investigated the effect of different face masks on the spread of oral bacteria. And this was very exciting to do, of course, because I was able to myself design the lab and also then carry it out myself. And it was a lot of fun to have a hands-on approach to learning. So a great experience.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions so far on sciences and what we've covered? Not at the moment. So in that case, we will go on to the one subject everyone has to choose, and that is mathematics.
Hello, my name is Maisa Senderek, and I am a math and physics teacher here at Mattlidens in the diploma program. Today I would like to introduce math courses taught at our school. In the PreDP year, we teach 5 math courses corresponding to those taught on the national side. In the diploma program, we offer 3 levels of mathematics, that is applications and interpretation SL, analysis and approaches SL, and analysis and approaches HL. Today, I invited 3 students to tell us more about those subjects.
Hi, my name is Julia and I study applications and interpretations SL, and I chose this math because I wanted to focus more on my other subjects like arts and my languages, and I would recommend this math for those who want to study humanities and like music and arts and yeah, all that fun stuff. I'm Stella and I study analysis and approaches SL, and I chose this math because I have no idea what I want to study in the future, and it keeps my options open, and it's good for students who want to study science, business, economics, or medicine.
Hi, I'm Thomas, and I study analysis and approaches HL. In the future, I'd like to study math and physics, which is why I chose this one, because it's the most challenging and most useful course if that's what you're trying to do, like myself. It's a very challenging course, but if you work hard and you know your stuff, you should be just fine.
So as I said, everyone has to study maths in the IB diploma program, but as we have 3 levels, and there is plenty of time before having to make a choice. I am sure everyone will find the correct level of maths. And in the 6th subject group, we have the arts, and here we have a video by our arts teachers.
Melanie, my colleague, music teacher, and I'm Fredrika Auvinen, and the visual arts teacher. So Melanie, what are you doing in music?
Oh, a lot. I can mention here in the beginning that we are the only IB school in Finland that offers music as a diploma program. This is a quite new program for Mattliden, and it would be really nice to see many students in that subject. So in music, the students discover music in 3 roles actually, and they are discovering them as a performer. So the music studies are very broad, and the students are also able to develop their musicality from many different perspectives. What about arts?
The IB is a very sort of analytical and demanding education course, and I think that visual arts in the IB it's a sort of way to interpret the world really in a more creative perspective, and I think that's a really important skill to have, and not only being able to express yourself artistically, but also I think just seeing the world in an artistic way is really helpful in almost all of your subjects, and just being a more nuanced student in that sense.
You should come to Mattlidens IB, because here we have amazing music education. You get to just chill with your friends and just jam around. You can play whenever you want. And in music, it's really free. We can just do basically what we want as long as we keep calm and do our thing.
Yeah, and we have the best music facilities.
When I came to Mattlidens, I was only a piano player, but now I can do some sick beats also, you know.
Because I always really liked art and drawing and painting and such, and I have been thinking of maybe working with something that includes art, like animation or graphic design or something like that. And yeah, I really think we have a lot of fun during the lessons, and we have a great group, and yeah.
And I chose art because it's a creative outlet in the day, so instead of having all these really hard subjects and you get all this stress like built up, you can come here and kind of release that and like release your emotions in an art piece. And also I chose art because it's one less exam, and
yes,
it's just more spread out work.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Come to Mattliden and discover more about our music program.
Arts.
So why did you choose art?
I've always liked arts, and this is a very fun and safe space to do art, and everyone's very nice in at least the IB, and yeah, I don't know, it's very fun. And I have very good older peers that have recommended it, and they can show and express how fun it is to have art in Mattlidens IB.
I'm surprised you haven't.
Thanks. See you.
Both visual arts and music are relatively new subjects in Mattlidens, and the groups aren't very big, which is of course a very nice thing. However, we have a student from both groups represented here today. Ellen studies visual arts and Philip music. Could you please tell us something about what you do in class or for your assessed coursework or other things?
Yeah, so in visual arts, we do a lot of things. Most of it is kind of hands-on art, so we just get to do our own art projects, and then we, of course, look at kind of artists that are already known and out there, and then we connect our own work to those artists. And then as part of the assessment, we also have to do a comparative study where we compare different artworks and their different aspects of them, kind of. And then another part of the course is the process portfolio, so where we compile a portfolio of our work over the 2-year course, where you can really see your development as an artist through the course. And then we also have an exhibition at the end as part of our assessment as well, where we make our own artworks and write about them and kind of curate our own exhibition. So yeah, it's a nice program, and though it's art, it's still quite structured, which is nice, and the assessment is kind of very clear. So we have like a study guide and stuff, so that's nice.
Yeah, so as Anna already said, I study music, and the music syllabus has changed a little bit from this previous year, so I'm not going to talk about the syllabus too much. But actually, Mattlidens is the only school in the whole Finland which offers music in the IB, which is pretty interesting. So if you want to study music, this is the place to go. And for my internal assessment that I'm doing in music, I'm actually producing a song, a piece that I did myself. So I actually produce music on my free time. And this is a great way to incorporate my free time interests into my academic life. And also for it to be valued in my whole diploma score.
Okay, thank you. We look forward to later on hearing, not today in this presentation, but we here at school and in society to hear and see more then from all our IB students. We have gone through all the individual subject groups and the subjects that we offer here at Mattlidens, so we're back here at this on this picture with all the subject represented. And before we go on to talking about similarities and differences between the national side and the IB, I'd like to point out that all combinations in the IB in these subjects isn't possible because of the timetable. So we do our utmost to listen to students and see which combinations of studies would cause as few clashes as possible. But sometimes there might be a case that the student can't get the exact combination of subject or level that they would like to. But since we do work extensively on talking about your options and how to choose and what we have available, most of the time we are able to reach the best possible solution for each student. Similarities and differences in the IB. Well, the biggest one is probably that in the IB you only do 6 subjects. It's a 2-year program and you only study 6 subjects and you sit an exam in all those 6 subjects. And in the national side, in Finnish or Swedish in Finland, there are mandatory courses as well. You have to study a variety of subjects, and then you have to do at least 5 matriculation exams from various categories. The assessment in the IB is quite broad. I think we have a couple of slides coming up on that. In the national side, it's only the matriculation exams that count. In the IB, it's also work that you are doing throughout your studies. So if something happens just before the exams, for example, you don't fail just because of that. In the IB Sciences, for example, there's a lot of lab work, so the subjects are quite practical, whereas in the national side, lab courses very often are separate courses, and you'll only do like smaller labs or 1 or 2 labs here and there in a regular course. Also, because in the IB you're only doing 6 subjects, you have more time to go in depth. So Nora's example, for example, in history, and how she was able to investigate 1940s Finland. That's something that in the national side potentially there wouldn't be time to do in the frame of a regular upper secondary course.
I could jump in
Yeah.
with a link to what you were saying about the Nora's internal assessment, is the fact that there is a lot of choice, that's come up now, and the students have been talking about the coursework that they've done, that they've been able to select topics and subjects that they're interested in within the subjects that they've chosen. So you can really individualize the learning experience. Also, I teach English A, and one of the things that I really like about that program is, well, first of all, I like involving the students in choosing what books we read, and then also there is this oral component that everyone completes in the languages. So you have to do an oral assessment as part of your grade for which isn't part of the national side language courses. Generally, in Mattlidens, the groups are slightly smaller as well in each of our subjects. So, as I said earlier, you get to know the teacher quite well over the 2 years, and also your group. So you have time to kind of build a relationship as a group there, which really is a fantastic feature, I feel. Should we move on to the next slide, or?
Yeah, I'll say 1 or 2 more things before we move on to assessment, and let's have some student comments then later on at the end of the presentation on this topic as well. But right now, what I could say maybe is that I think probably a lot of students who are Finnish or Swedish speakers and are wondering that is the IB for me, or is studying in English for me. I said earlier that you'll get used to it. You will. And in PreDP, since courses are equivalent to the national side courses in Finnish or Swedish, if you were to decide that the IB is not your cup of tea and you transfer to a Swedish or Finnish-speaking upper secondary school, all the courses you have taken in PreDP, and if you've already gone on to DP1, all the courses will be transferred to your new school. In PreDP, they all have an equivalent to a mandatory course, and a few courses maybe an optional course. In DP1, it's then harder to find exact equivalents, but the time that you have put in to school will always then be given to you if you decide to transfer. So naturally, you shouldn't just choose the IB if you think it's not for you. But if you're really keen on trying but you're afraid that what might happen if you don't like it in the end, or you realize that this is not for you, then absolutely go for it. And then if you don't get used to it, if you don't feel that you want to be in the IB, then it is not hard to change. But let's go on to assessment now from here. You know, you have to be assessed in your courses, so we know where you're going. So Anna's going to talk a bit about assessment in courses, and also then at the very end of the diploma program.
Yeah, so as has come up already in all of the examples we've heard so far, there's a wide range of ways that students are assessed. Everyone has to do this coursework as part of it, and then there are exams in all subjects but visual arts. in the subjects that we offer here at Mattlidens. And you're doing different kinds of things, such as projects, portfolios, presentations. We've talked a lot about the lab work, investigations, essays, and so on. And then, of course, the exams, which are the final thing that takes place in the end of the second year. This might look a bit daunting when you see this list and all of the subjects that you have to study, but what we do here at the school is we spread all of these deadlines over the 2 years, literally, so that there isn't, of course there are stressful periods, especially during the final year, but we try our best to spread them out so that everything isn't due at the same time. So you also learn time management along the way by keeping up with your assignments and so on. All right, I've mentioned the exam, so I'll just talk briefly about that as well. So in May of the final year, you do exams, which are sent to us from the IB, and these take place in May over about 3 weeks, depending on where our subjects fall in the schedule. There's sessions in the morning and the afternoon, and all of the subjects have at least, well, maybe music, I think, only has one, but most of the subjects have 2 examinations of different types and different lengths, and they are in either a morning or afternoon session. So again, depending on one subject combination, they can be spread out or quite intense. So yeah, and then the waiting begins. Results come out in early July to all of the candidates who wrote exams in May. But this isn't a problem if you're thinking about applying to schools in Finland. Anna's going to talk about that a little bit later. The Finnish universities do cooperate with us a lot in this regard. And then we do hold a graduation ceremony in the end of August for our IB graduates here at the school. So they get their diploma and their white hat, just like our students on the national side. One other thing that I could add regarding the scheduling here is that our DP students will be going to classes till the beginning of March, so a little bit later than our national side students. And then we have something called mock exams, so they practice writing their examination papers, and then they've got approximately 1 month of study leave in order when they can study and prepare for their final exams. So busy spring ahead for these students and their classmates. All right, and then the diploma, right? So at the end of this process, if you've met all the diploma requirements, you get your diploma, and on the slide you can see the overall diploma pass rate. So this is a global statistic, this isn't a Mattlidens statistic. We have very few students who don't ever get their diploma. It's not the norm by any means. The maximum points that one can get for their diploma is 45 points. We won't talk about the assessment here, but that maybe gives you some idea of when we say that our average is pretty consistent over the years at about 35 to 36. This is the average of the class. Of course, we have students that don't achieve that, and students who are getting 42, 43 points. So it really varies from year to year. But good success rate here at Mattlidens, that's for sure.
Do we have anything we would like to answer right now, or shall we go on to why choose the IB? Okay, we'll go on. I think a lot of the questions that have come up are on why to choose the IB, and should I choose the IB or the national side. Some of these things we've tried to answer already, and some of them will be coming up now. Anna, do you want to talk about why the IB? And then we'll have some student comments.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can see here on the slide why the IB. I've spoken widely already about why I think it's a beneficial program. I've been teaching for over 20 years IB and I think it's a really reliable program and well established globally, and just the things that the IB diploma does, the IB program does that maybe isn't on the national side are things like the core, so the extended essay, doing CAS, and TOK are things that when I talk to students who have graduated from us and they come back and visit and tell us about what they're up to, they often raise these things up, the TOK and the CAS and extended essay as things that they really appreciated. Maybe not while they were doing it necessarily, but definitely after the fact they see the value of those things. But I think our students and our graduates probably can answer this question a lot better, or from a student perspective. So we'll start off actually with a video from a student who graduated just this past year. So let's hear from Emily.
Hi everyone, my name's Emily and I'm currently in my first year at University College London studying nutrition and medical sciences. The IB is a really excellent program, particularly if you're thinking about studying abroad in the future, but generally in anything you want to do, whether that's working or something else. The diploma is a very recognized and valued diploma all around the world, and the knowledge and the skills that you learn in the IB will benefit you in whatever you do in the future. Particularly the way that we learn in the IB is really beneficial, and that's through lessons, presentations, essays, lab reports, discussions, anything. And it will benefit you in all aspects of life. Particularly if you do want to go study at university or wherever after high school, the IB will just give you that little extra leg up in preparing you for those studies. For example, I'm going through things that I learned in HL biology and chemistry in high school in the IB now in my university program. I know that quite a few of you may be from Finnish or Swedish-speaking backgrounds, and I just want to say that you shouldn't feel nervous about being in an English-speaking environment or studying in English for the first time. Just being in the IB environment, you pick up things so quickly that after a couple of months of being at Mattliden or being in an IB program, you're going to be completely fine, and you have so many people around you to help you along the way, your teachers, your friends, your family. It really is very doable. And I'm not going to lie, the IB is hard, it requires a lot of work, but there's so much that you can take out of it along the way and after your high school experience, and it's just a really great way to challenge yourself. I applied to Mattliden in particular because I really like the atmosphere there. Everyone works really hard, but I never felt like I needed to be constantly studying to keep up with everyone. It's just a really supportive, really friendly environment, and that worked really well for me. I had amazing teachers, and for the most part, I enjoyed coming to school and learning every day. I'm really going to cherish my experience at Mattliden, and I would highly recommend the IB program at Mattliden to all of you.
All right, so that's Emily and her thoughts on doing the IB here at Mattlidens, and we thought we'd just go down the line here with the students and ask them why they chose the IB over the national side or maybe Mattlidens as a school. So Nora, would you like to get us started?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I have a brother who also did the IB, so that kind of gave me a little insight into what the school was about. And I also wanted the challenge because I felt like high school or upper secondary school wasn't that hard for me, so I wanted a bit to challenge myself with both the English language and then because the IB is quite a lot more challenging than the national side.
Personally, for me, the main reason why I chose the IB is the focus on the 6 subjects. In the national side of high school, there's such a broad spectrum of things that you have to learn, whereas in the IB you get to focus on those 6 subjects, and I think this really prepares you for university much better than that broad curriculum that they have on the national side, and that's the main reason why I chose the IB.
Yeah, for me personally, the reason was that even though the work might be more difficult and there might be more work, the work for me is more interesting. So it's, for example, I've taken a few actually of the national side courses, but that's besides the point. But for me, I feel like it's more the teaching is more interactive. You have more I guess, freedom of how you go through the concepts on your own. And even though you get good guidance during the lessons, you still have your own freedom to go through the topics as you please during the IB teaching. And we rarely do for example, any exercises during the lessons. So it's mostly interactive discussion or lecturing during the IB lessons, and then we do that kind of exercise stuff on our free time independently.
Yeah. For me, I chose the IB mainly for the teaching language, and then, like Matthias said, the focus on like the 6 subjects, and I liked it a lot that you could have a choice to really kind of zero in on the sciences and have a lot of lab work, which I think prepares you well for further studies in the scientific field.
So I chose the IB mainly because also of the teaching language, because though I speak Finnish and Swedish at home, I've lived abroad, and ever since then English has been kind of my strongest language, so I really wanted to go to school in English. Also, I was really attracted to the idea of the more spread out assessment, so that everything that you do during your 2 or 3 years doesn't hang on that one test, so that it's more spread out and more about what you do during the whole process than just the one test. So I really liked that.
Okay, thank you for those comments. We'll be getting back to the students in just a little bit. We've also had some questions on why students decide to leave PreDP or the IB program and change to the national side. And firstly, if you haven't seen the response in the chat, it is only a handful of students every year. There's always 1 or 2 every year, but I don't think we've ever had more than 4 or 5 per year, so a very small percentage. And mostly it's a case of not thinking that the IB is really for you, and it might be quite hard to pinpoint what exactly is not for you. But as we heard here from the student comments, the studies are a bit different in the IB compared to the national side, and the system maybe just doesn't suit everyone. Also, there are students who want to study psychology, for example. Here in Mattlid and in the national side, it's a very popular subject, but in the IB we don't offer it, even though there is an IB subject called psychology. So I know that some students have left because they want to pursue psychology, for example. So very individual reasons, usually nothing that sort of say that the teachers are great and the friends are great and so on, and studying in English was fine, but there's just something that they don't feel that this was their thing.
I suppose I could add one thing to this as well, is that because the national side, you can stretch out your studies over 3.5 or even 4 years to complete them. You can't do that with IB diploma. It's 3 years and that's it. So if you've got, for example, sports to fit in, you know, all your practices and tournaments and competitions and all of that, that can get a bit tricky. It's not impossible. We've had hockey players and all kinds of sportsmen and women here
nodding here on the sofa.
Yes, Nora mentioned her basketball earlier. So it's not a reason not to apply to the IB, but I know that this is oftentimes one reason why our students decide to switch school. So again, it's I think it's good that you have choices, you 9th graders out there, that you don't have to do just this. You can really at this point you have lots of choices in front of you. So take time to consider all of these options.
Before going on to further education, I could still comment on the fact that we here at Mattlidens, besides there being, of course, the teaching staff and the IB coordinator and other admin staff, The IB has me as the guidance counsellor, and there are other guidance counsellors in the building as well. But the student welfare team here is very good and broad. We have a full-time special needs teacher who works both with IB and national side students, a school social worker, nurse, school psychologist. This spring, due to COVID funding, we actually have 2 social workers and so on. So students who find school overwhelming or have something going on in their personal lives do get a lot of help here, whether they are in the national side or the IB, and whether they speak Swedish or Finnish or English. So that is not a problem. But as Anna was saying, the IB can't be stretched out. So if for some reason a student needs to take a break from school, or take it a bit easy in the IB, it can be harder to do than in the national side, because you can't really take a pause. But you can choose your subjects so that they are not the hardest combination possible. You can choose subjects that will allow you to have to work hard but still have some free time, and so on. But students who have already left us, who are happy that they've got through all the IB finals and assessed coursework and everything, a lot of the time we are asked where the students are now, and we do try to ask students. So these are some responses. We have some of the most popular universities and also programs of study. So all kinds of social sciences and natural sciences and engineering, and also combinations of various subjects, both in Finland and abroad. Medicine is very popular, as is economics, and that's something we see here in the subject choices that our students make, and as are then languages and humanities. Due to Brexit, not very many students are applying to the UK this year, but in previous years we've had lots of students going, especially to the Greater London area and to Scotland. The Netherlands has become more popular, and I'm really happy to say that the newish English-speaking bachelor programs at Aalto University here in Espoo have become increasingly popular with our IB students. Okay, so further education with an IB diploma, what can you do? Well, you can do anything you like, really. So IB-DP students who are applying to university this spring, they are applying at the same time as everyone else, although the results don't come out until July, and graduation isn't until late August. That means that students are applying with so-called predicted grades, which are given by the teaching staff here at Mattlidens. And with those, if successful, then the students will receive a mostly conditional offer from university. So the university will say that, okay, if you really are getting these 36 points out of 45, and you have a 6 in high-level maths, for example, then you have a place. If you don't get those points, then you lose the place as well. This is how it usually works, both in Finland and abroad. In Finland, there's additionally now the system that you can get in with points from your final exams or with an entrance exam of some sort. And approximately 50, or it's at least 50%, so it depends on the university and the degree program, but 50 or 60% get in based on their final exam points. These points are not on the school grades, only on what's on the diploma the actual final grades. So students apply with a predicted grade, get a conditional offer, and then they have to prove themselves with their final grades. The subjects that IB students get points for in Finland are either equivalent to the subjects in the Finnish national system or called another subject. And that category usually doesn't get a lot of points, but you can still get points for subjects that aren't equivalent to anything in the national curriculum. High level and standard level subjects in Finland, there might be a requirement that you have higher level maths, for example, to be able to get in based on your points. But otherwise, you can get in based on by doing an entrance exam, whether you have high level or standard level maths. You just have to be able to do well enough in the exam. So there are a lot of criteria for how to get in with points and how everything works, but what I'm trying to make as clear as possible here is that IB students can get in Finland with points. And there are tables of what subjects and how many points and so on in opintopolku, study-info. The rest, the 40–50% of students who are not successful in getting in with their final diploma points, they have to sit an entrance exam. So if with your predicted grades are told that that's not high enough, or you don't have whatever is the criteria, for example, high-level maths, you then have to do whatever entrance exam the university has stipulated. So it might be SATs, it might be an entrance exam in June, and unfortunately it might be an entrance exam that clashes with a final exam here in Mattliden. That is something that we are very well aware of, but since there are only about 600 IB students graduating every year in Finland, and not everyone is applying to the same faculty at the same university in Finland, the universities have decided that they will organize their entrance exams when it suits them. But these clashes are quite uncommon, but they occur. The specific admissions criteria in Finland aren't published until November of the year before the academic term starts. So students who are applying this spring found out in November what exactly the criteria are. And this sounds quite unfair, but it's what it is. But I am here and I do counsel students both in class and individually on how application systems work in Finland and abroad, and when do you have to start doing things about your application and thinking about where you want to go and so on. So there is support. And the last thing I will still mention, and then we'll check to see if there are questions, and then after that we'll have some students reply, is about language skills. So if in the IB diploma program you decide that you don't want to study Finnish or Swedish, for example, even though you've studied it before at school, no problem. You can go on and study, for example, English and Spanish, and then there are several options of what you can do to your Finnish or Swedish. You might want to take a national matriculation exam to prove your language skills. But if you've been in Finland and have a leaving certificate from a Finnish or Swedish-speaking school from 9th grade, then already that means that you've got the proof that you speak Finnish or Swedish. And also, if necessary, you can take a language test at the university when you apply to prove that you speak this, a specific language, Finnish or Swedish. So those are not problems. You don't have to speak a specific language here in Mattliden, well, besides English, but you can still study in Finnish, in Swedish, in Finland, or study in English here or abroad. Maybe we can see if we have any questions here, because then the students might want to answer some of them as well. So, Sana.
Definitely, there are questions concerning this. People are thinking a lot about university and what happens after high school. You have answered, I would say, the vast majority of questions, but would you say at large, what would say that it's harder to get into universities in Finland from the IB compared to the national side? How would you answer that question?
Unfortunately, because our students are 18, 19 when they leave, and universities don't tell us that they've received the students, we don't know. But we do, as I said earlier, ask students to please let us know where they've gone and send them, feedback forms and things like that. And also, of course, based on discussions that I have with students and my colleagues, I would say that, like, if it's based on a subject that you haven't, like, if the entrance, how do I say this now? So if you gain entry to a program based on your final points, and the most points are given for a subject you haven't studied, then it is harder for an IB student to get in, because you would have to then study for an entrance exam that is at the same time as your finals. You might have to study a lot of topics that you haven't done before, and so on. However, if you're doing well at school and you get a lot of points, or the entrance exam is based on mostly the same things that you're doing in the IB, in that case, I think an IB student, due to all these facts that we've said before about study skills and research skills and reading and writing and working under pressure, I would say the IB student definitely would have a better chance of getting in. But it's very individual. It's so hard to say. It depends on where you're going and what your background is.
I have one more question here. There's a question that is quite specific, but still, if you're able to answer, are there potential times later in life when you might regret not having the Finnish matriculation exam instead of the IB? How would you answer that person?
I'm guessing we're talking about the entire Finnish matriculation exam, not just like the language Finnish, right?
Well, the person has added here, when applying for positions as a civil servant in the public sector, for instance, as regard in general Finnish and Swedish qualifications.
Okay. Well, I think a lot of positions in like the public sector, for example, might have more specific requirements based on language. So in that case, if you haven't studied maybe Finnish or Swedish or whatever it is, then you might have to in some other way prove yourself in those languages. But again, I think that the research skills and you having done a humanities subject, for example, in the IB, having done at least 2 more languages, I think that would again be an asset. And I do know that we have several IB students who are successfully working in sectors that I think this person who asked the question means. So definitely not a requirement, the IB, to have the national matriculation exam. I think the IB definitely equips you to work with anything.
And one more question concerning universities. This is perhaps more just cooperating with universities at school. Earlier you mentioned about Finnish universities cooperating with IB schools. Could you give some example of the universities you're referring to here?
Okay, so upper secondary schools throughout the country, including the IB sections of those schools, have connections to usually the universities close to them. So we work a lot with Aalto University and the University of Helsinki, for example, and also some universities of applied science like Arcada, Laurea, Metropolia, for example, who all have English-speaking degree programs that are quite competitive. Also Åbo Academy here and so on. We also work quite closely with various organizations, everything from student welfare to for example, the Fulbright Center in Helsinki for studies in North America and things like this. So that kind of things. All right. So maybe we should go on then to the students and ask you about your plans for the future. So could everyone please very briefly say what you would like to study in the future, where, and if you don't know, it's fine. I still have lots of available times for you that we can talk about this later. Go ahead.
So when I graduate, I'm planning on taking gap year to work, preferably abroad, and then I'd like to study abroad, and my top choice would be studying cinematic arts, but I'm also considering English literature, and I'm applying to English literature programs as well.
Yeah, I hope to continue on to medical school, and I've applied to various schools in Ireland, the Netherlands, and then hope to apply here in Finland also.
I'm very interested in marketing, so I'll be studying something marketing related. And I've applied to Netherlands, and I'm still going to apply to some Finnish schools, and then in general in Northern Europe. Because I'm a Finnish citizen, I have the National Conscription Army that I'm doing straight after my exams, so I'm going to do that before I go into university.
I also have the National Conscription Army immediately after I finish high school, but after that I'm planning on going to study engineering in Aalto, and I think the IB has really helped with this because of the depth of the studies in physics and math are very much in depth, and I think this has been really helpful to me. And
so I'll be applying to Finland to study law, but I think I have to take a gap year to do that in order to, because of the entrance exams and how the time schedule is. But I'll maybe apply to a school, for example, in Switzerland or in Copenhagen for the gap year that I'm taking, so I can start my schooling there and then come back to Finland and study environmental law.
Great. But as you can see, a wide range of interests of our students, and this is only one small portion of the students we've got in their final year. I want to pull back a little bit. We've been talking a lot about the future. And I want to show you a little bit of what our school facilities look like, and also talk a little bit about what it's like to study here and what kinds of things make Mattlidens a great place to work and to study. So here you can just see some of our facilities, modern facilities, different spaces for working independently, self-study rooms and group working rooms, and so on. So there's a lot of let's just say we use every square meter that we have quite efficiently to offer students a comfortable experience. Even though we're not currently at the school, we do our best to make it a pleasant place to be. We've also got places where students can spend their free time. So we're actually recording this from our student lounge. So this is a place where students can come and hang out during their breaks and just relax. But there's also a gym downstairs that students have access to, that they can go and work out there with lots of different things that they can use there. So it's actually quite a busy place from what I've heard. I think all schools want to talk about their school spirits, and certainly we're going to do that here. The Mattlidens spirit, we try to create opportunities for our national and IB students to do things together. Of course, we've been a bit restricted this year with that kind of stuff, but we do have, for example, student council, which is represented by students on both sides, our tutor program, which also has students from all both sides, and these tutors work with our first graders to integrate them into their new school and create a good atmosphere and so on. Was there, Matthias and Nora, you were both tutors. Do you want to say something about Mattlidens spirit and being a tutor? Do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, I was a tutor at my second year for the first years, and I was also a veteran tutor this past summer, spring, fall, all three. And it was probably one of the best experiences I had here, if I'm being honest. I don't know, it was just great. I met a bunch of new people, and we got to know each other really well. And, well, yeah, I mean, and even, well, I mean, I can also say that even though during the spring we weren't at school, there was still a tutor program going on. And from what I saw, they were still getting along extremely well, and they were making friends that they hadn't met before. And yeah, it worked even with the distance.
And I think it combines both the national side and the IB quite well, because we work as a big group, and it's not like the IB students and the national siders, but it's the tutors work as one big group, and we plan things together. And for example, we have a Högsan Day, or I don't know where the next year students will have it, but it's like a really fun day where the tutors plan quite a lot of program for the first year students, and they seem to enjoy it very much. At least I did when we had ours, so it's really a great program.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. All right. We also have a lot of extracurricular activities that our students can get involved in, and many of these can also then be used in the CAS program that we were talking about earlier. So we've talked about the student council and student tutors, but then we've got things such as the Model European Parliament and Model United Nations, where our students are able to interact with students from other schools, either here in the capital region or even abroad. There's a picture there of our MUN students who actually did a virtual simulation a few months ago. So even with all of the COVID restrictions that have been in place, we've been able to do international cooperation as well. So there's plenty of ways to keep busy and find other things to do outside of your academic subjects. And maybe I'll ask Nora again, because you were one of the students who participated in our LEAP program. So do you want to say something about that?
Sure. So we traveled to Scotland last fall, and there we got to meet quite a lot of the locals. We went to different places around, what was the town called?
Lockerbie.
Lockerbie, yeah. So we got to explore the city, and then we got to meet all the students from Scotland. And I still talk with my host family, and they were really nice. So it was a quite nice experience to meet people around the world. And this program then goes around in different countries. There's Norway and UK and then Finland and Italy and Poland that are part of this program. So it was really fun to meet all of these people.
Excellent. All right. The teachers have been mentioned quite a few times during our presentation here. You've met many of them in the videos. I can say after working with them for a few years, they're all very passionate about their subjects, and they're very committed to helping get the best out of our students, so that they get the best results possible. And this is facilitated by the fact that we're working closely with the students sometimes for the entire 3 years. in a particular subject. Sana, have we got any questions at this point that should be addressed?
Yeah, we have a couple of questions still here concerning studies after high school, and then we have sort of questions that the students can answer. Let's ask the students. You already talked about, tutor program, etc. But could you somehow explain a little bit, since we have the Swedish language national side here in the IB, how do you feel that the national side of the IB interacts? Is there one big happy family or two happy families? And what's the general atmosphere at school in your opinion?
I mean, I can start us off, for example, and then give to Ellen. So, me personally, I come from, my mother tongue is Swedish. So, and I went to a Swedish Ulaste, or like primary, I don't know what it's called in English. Upper secondary school. Yeah, but Ulaste anyways in the Finnish language. So it was in Swedish, so that's why I had a lot of contacts here in Mattliden, in the national side also. So I feel like there's always someone, at least when we were in school. Now we're not here physically in school, but when we're here, there's always someone to talk to in the hallway, and you have old friends and you have new friends. I feel like in general, in my personal experience, we get along good. I'll give it over to Ellen.
Thank you, Philip. So I think it varies a lot from year to year how the national side and the IB students get on. But like for our year, it's been really great, and especially like with the tutor program and planning, for example, Vanhat and the IB committee stuff. Though I'm not on the IB committee, but still, like what I hear is that it's really just going really well. All the kind of cooperation there between the two sides. So yeah, I do feel like it really is very merged, and it doesn't really matter who's where, and we can all kind of just get along. So yeah, I think that's really nice.
I mean, I was looking to say something. I mentioned earlier that when I came to Mattlidens, I didn't speak a word of Swedish. But that didn't stop, like, the tutors that were making sure that we got integrated into school. They made sure that we were mixed, that it wasn't split between national side and IB. They made sure that it was one big happy family, as was said, and there wasn't like a divide between us. And then through that, it kind of helped with the integration that I did join the tutor program then, and I learned the Swedish there. But that's still like, I do also have friends who didn't learn Swedish as well, and they're integrated. They hang out with national siders, even though they're in the IB, even in their free time, and it hasn't stopped them from being friends between the IB and national side, even if they don't speak the same language.
Okay, and then we could have a couple of these university questions. So Anna Q, I would imagine, would be the perfect person to answer the following. Do you have the same chances to get into Swedish or Finnish-speaking universities in Finland after the IB?
As foreign universities, yes, of course. It all depends on what subject you've studied, how well you've done, how well you do on an entrance exam, who else is applying. It's impossible to say who's going to get in and where, but whether you've done the IB or the national side doesn't determine whether or not you can go to university in Finland or abroad.
I heard medicine studies in Finland are only in Finnish. Can a student from IB go to study medicine in Finland, and it would be in English?
In Finland, you can only study medicine in Finnish or Swedish. So like Matias, you would have to learn Swedish in that case, if you don't want to learn Finnish. In English, unfortunately, there are no medical studies. Also, there are sciences you can study at university in Finland in English, but nothing in the medical field, at least not yet. But maybe in a couple of years. But in order for you to be able to do that, let's have a look at how to apply. And these application slides, as well as just our contact details and then any last-minute questions, are the last part of this evening. General application, regular time, end of February to end of March. in opintopolku, studieinfo or study info in English. The application form is only in Finnish or Swedish, so even though you go to study info in English, once you start filling in the application form, it'll change to Finnish or Swedish. That is nothing we can do about, unfortunately, but I'm sure guidance counsellors in Year 9 will help anyone who's applying. If you look for Mattlidens Gymnasium in opintopolku or studieinfo, it will only give you the national side because there's a language selection that needs to be, or a filter that needs to be removed. So if they're in opintopolku, there's a filter saying suomeksi or svenska på svenska, then remove the red X and you will get all 3 languages, and you will also find Mattlidens IB. So apply in opintopolku according to all the instructions. If you need any more help with applying, talk to your guidance counsellor in your own school, and if there's something in particular about Mattlidens you want to ask, we have an application section on our website there, mattliden.fi/IB, and then you can click the apply button. If you're applying from a Finnish-speaking or Swedish-speaking or English-speaking school in Finland and you're getting a Finnish leaving certificate, so a päättötodistus or avgångsbetyg, then you don't have to do anything extra. You just apply by the deadline of the 23rd of March. Entrance is based only on your grade point average of your academic subjects. So if you've heard about entrance exams, we had them previous years, but we no longer have an entrance exam. Only your academic subjects GPA. If you're applying from abroad, or for example from the European school, and you don't get this Finnish national leaving certificate, then you need to fill in some more forms. Firstly, in opintopolku you have to tick the box that says enligt prövning or harkinnanvarainen, which means that your application isn't in the same pool as everyone else's. It goes to the separate pool that goes to the principal, who then looks at the application and all the additional documentation. The deadline for getting all these application documents to the school is the 31st of March, so a week after the application deadline. And if you are someone who is applying directly to the IBDP program, so not to PreDP, then you need to contact the other Anna, my colleague Anna Martikainen here. So the DP coordinator, and she'll give you more information. Okay. Results. We don't decide who comes here. Your GPA is what counts, and the opintopolku system tells us who has applied in first hand and second hand and so on, and filters out then all the applications and your results, and we will get a list saying who we have accepted, and then you will also know that you have been accepted if you have so. The results are published on our website as well as they're in opintopolku on the 17th of June, and you accept your study spot online and the instructions will be sent to you in an email. Now please note that in the application you can tick a box saying that you don't want your name to be shown on the list of people who've been accepted. In that case, your name will not be on the list and you will have to call around if you can't find your result in opintopolku. So check opintopolku to see that have you ticked this box or not. If possible, don't tick it, then you can find your name on the list, and it's easier for you then to know what school you've been accepted to. Also, make sure you use a personal email account. Don't use your parents' account, use something that is yours. I'm talking to you, 9th grader. And also, don't use something that has been given to you by your school right now, because that might be an email address that no longer works then in the summertime. Okay. You met our principal, Saana Ruotsala, in the beginning. She's the one who's answering your questions in the chat. I'm guidance counsellor Anna Quagrain, and with me here I have, besides our DP2 students, we have IB DP coordinator Anna Martikainen. So all of us are very happy to answer questions if you have them later on. But let's see now. And before I give Saana the okay to, if she wants to ask something, I will also market the open house that we have this year on Instagram, because we're not here and you can't come here. So on Tuesday at 3:30 there will be an Instagram live session with a few students, and I think Anna and myself.
We'll be there.
And you can follow us around the school. We'll be looking at the facilities and talking about what the school is like and what we do here. Yeah. So Saana, I think...
Right now, actually, there doesn't seem to be any question that we haven't answered. I hope so. And I'm trying to type here the last answers to the last questions.
Okay. Anna, do you or do our students have any final thing you want to say now? Or have we managed to get all the most important answers from you already?
I really can't think of anything at the moment. I'm sure as soon as the cameras turn off, I will think of something. But we've tried to be really comprehensive and as brief as possible with this information today. But of course, if you have any questions and you think of them after the camera turns off, you can always get in touch with me either via email, and my phone number's on the website, so you can give me a call, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, I'll step into frame with you. Yeah, this is the two Annas. We can start calling us the, I don't know how tall we should be. Anyway.
Thank you very much for joining in.
Thank you. Tack, kiitos. See you here at Mattlidens.